My name's Scott Newman and today we're having an early look at the new Nissan Navara Pro-4X Warrior. Maddie Radonicus will be driving this thing later this month in Alice Springs, but for now we're going to have a walk around, and who better to give us a walk around than Premcar boss Bernie Quinn. G'day Bernie.
Scott, how are you?
Very well, thanks. Thank you for joining us. So let's run us through what this thing is. So we'll start at the front here.
Yep.
Tell us what you change on a regular Navara to turn it into a Warrior.
Sure. Well, funnily enough, we've got the factory probably in the background here. We might have a look at that later, but fundamentally what we do is we take the changes that we made, very similar to the Enthralling Warrior, and we overlay it onto this new Pro-4X Navara. In terms of the changes themselves, well, we've got frontal protection system. So this is a steel hoopless bull bar. We call it a safari bar. We've got underbody protection, so a big batch plate here, nice red so it pops out. We've got integrated light bar. We've got underarm protection as well. More underbody protection that extends
so it goes further back into the car,
underneath the engine and the gearbox. Probably one of the more notable things is the stance of the vehicle. So we widen the track with the 17-inch alloy wheels, unique to the Warrior. 32.2-inch Cooper Discoverer tyre.
32.2, that's very precise.
Well, you know me, Scott. Yeah. It's got the wider track and then the flares to cover the increasing track width. And probably the biggest change we make, or the most, I guess the thing that takes the most development, is the whole suspension system. So new springs, dampers, bump stops, all totally retuned for the Warrior. So it's lifted, 40 mil in total, above the Pro-4X. Track's widened by, I think, 30 mil.
But you mentioned that even though this was a facelift rather than an all-new model, you still went through a full development process with the car.
We had to. So early in the development story, the suspension we thought was going to be pretty much carryover. But there's a few things that changed. So the vehicle itself, the base vehicle, is substantially beefed up underneath. So new control arms, new rear axle assembly, chassis itself is strengthened. So we had to integrate all of our changes with that. There was changes in mass, there was changes in GVM, and changes in payload as well. So we've maintained, I think, 952 kilo payload, which meant we had to go and retune the chassis for that and revalidate everything for that as well. Okay, fantastic. Well, let's go around the side and we'll have a look at the further changes. What's going on here? So we've got these Cooper tyres. Why Coopers? Well, on the tyres, we went through a pretty extensive benchmarking process when we were doing the tyre selection exercise. And there's lots of options in the market, for this kind of all-terrain. This is a fairly unique size, but we did have a bunch of options. What we found with the Cooper Discoverer was it's actually really good in terms of the compromise between on-road and off-road. So when we talk about the Warrior brand, we've got a bunch of inviolables, which means we're non-negotiable on things like we increase the bandwidth of capability instead of shifting it. So we have to carry over the on-road attributes from the Pro-4X, but then increase its off-road capability, not shift everything one way. Sorry, we've got the production line going in the background. So this tyre was great for that. The on-road comfort, the on-road MVH is fantastic for such an aggressive tread pattern. But then you go off-road and it just transforms the car in terms of off-road capability.
These flares added to cover the extra track?
Correct, yep. So once again, added on our assembly line back here. You probably hear it just starting to crank up after the lunch break. And we did a lot of work to integrate them in with the rest of the changes as well. So some unique componentry, injection molded componentry there.
And you mentioned that quite a lot of the parts in this vehicle, compared to say the N-Track even, are Australian made.
Yeah, we bumped up the local content. It just so happened when we brought out the Enthralling Warrior, that's pretty much when the pandemic hit. And we had a few components coming from China for that vehicle, the Enthralling. So we got a double whammy because the pandemic started in China and we were struggling to get bull bars out of China. But when they were shut down, we paid extra to get them air freighted here, and as soon as they hit, pandemic hit Australia, and so we got the double whammy. So we really, I guess, secured our supply a little bit more with this vehicle. Plus, it's a good story to have more local content. So bull bar comes from Australia now. A bunch of other stuff was resourced to Australia as we did the redesign.
Okay, fantastic.
So we're up, I don't know, around 80% local content now.
So it's almost like this Aussie ute.
It absolutely is. It's a story we like to tell because it has been developed for Australian conditions, Australian engineers, you know, it really covers the wide range of conditions that an Australian driver will, you know, see when they go off-road, they go camping. I've said it before, it's kind of the go anywhere, do anything freedom machine.
Tweak the interior as well with the seats?
Just with some Warrior branding.
Yep.
The Pro-4X itself got a really major interior upgrade. The seats have got this great stitching and great pattern and embossing. We've added some Warrior branding to that. Plus it gets all the latest, you know, Apple CarPlay, Android, whatever that's called. So
smartphone mirroring, I think it's called.
That's the one, yeah.
That's the one, yeah.
So yeah, it's really got a good freshen up. And the active safety systems as well, which also, you know, resulted in a lot more validation from our perspective, because we had to make all of that stuff seamless, integrated in with the different tyres, different ride height. So, you know, all of those systems still work on this car.
Okay, fantastic. Well, let's just run around the back and then we can actually take a look at the production line.
The story at the rear is we do a whole new unique tow bar for the vehicle. Now, it doesn't sound very exciting, but it tells a good story about the level of detail we go to make sure that the car is a hassle-free experience for the owner. So we have to do a unique tow bar because we've raised the ride height, but more importantly, we've got a full-size spare wheel under there.
Okay.
So we had to move the tow bar kind of back to fit the 32.2-inch wheel and tyre under there.
I imagine that tyre wouldn't fit in the standard.
Correct, in the standard spot. So, and we have to have a positioning guide, all of these things that take engineering and sign off and validation and design. Because if you can imagine, if we had the choice of putting a normal size wheel in there, but what that means is if the dude that goes camping gets a flat tyre, he has to take that wheel off, put it in the back and put his spare on and have a compromised driving experience off-road as well. It just doesn't work because you're full of camping gear and all that sort of thing, so not a great thing to happen for the owner. So there's a lot of engineering, a lot of cost that goes into, you know, this relatively simple change of tow bar.
And the rear suspension in this is coil sprung rear?
Yeah, so it's an awesome setup for this vehicle class. Relatively unique to have a non-leaf spring rear axle. So it's located by, you know, 4 longitudinal links in a panhard rod, so locating it laterally. And we do a lot of work on the rear suspension to give it off-road capability, but still a really nice controlled but plush ride on road. So we have a multi-rate rear spring. So in other words, you know, the challenge sometimes with a coil spring is making sure that you can get that ride comfort but also maintain the payload capacity and the towing capacity without, you know, the thing riding along like a boat. So the multi-rate spring enables that. And yeah, unique damper tuning. I think when you do get to drive the car, and I think Matt's going to drive it up in Northern Territory, what you'll see is it's just a really nice sorted suspension on this. You know, I've driven one for thousands and thousands of Ks now, on-road and off-road, and I love it. It's really nice compromise.
Very good. So, because you say that, but there hasn't been any compromise on the actual payload or the towing capacity, is there? So it's still 950, 952 around payload, and still 3.5
ton towing. Yep. So
right height.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So there's a lot of work in that. Because it's not just the spring and damper tuning, and so on the design side and the chassis attribute side, but the durability testing has to all be redone as well for that higher payload and plus with the towing capacity.
That's one thing that maybe isn't thought about. Because you add weight to the car, to keep the same payload, you have to recertify, don't you?
Absolutely. You have to recertify and revalidate. You have to do all your testing again. At that, even the wheel had to be redone. Even though it's a carryover wheel from the N-Trek Warrior, we have to redo all the validation at that higher payload, the higher mass.
Well, why don't we go and have a look, because it's just behind us and you can hear it obviously, at how this thing's built. Bernie will give us a tour of the production line. All right, Bernie, so run us through how you make a Warrior. What's the first step of the process?
Well, the first step of the process is taking delivery of the vehicle. So what we've got here is a bog standard Pro-4X, straight off the boat from Thailand.
Okay.
Get a daily delivery of these. You see we've got a whole bunch of them here. Still yet to be converted into Warrior. So we take the car, basically do some protective filming and that sort of thing, getting the car ready to get on the production line. As soon as that's done, we're ready to head up to Station 1 for the Warrior conversion.
All right, let's go there.
So we've taken a Pro-4X, we've put it onto the line, and you'll see here it's just finished its first process at Station 1. So this assembly line itself is just like any other vehicle assembly line. Each station has its own unique processes and operations
repeatable, same operators per day doing those processes. So we have really good quality. The line itself, you know, this is an ISO certified facility. It meets OE standards for quality. It's got all the standard process sheets, the, you know, cross-checking, torque measurement, torque recording of all the joints that we fasten up. So it really is world-class, OEM class production facility.
Okay, well let's take a look down and you can run us through some of the
Sure.
stuff that happens as we go.
Sure. So station one, we did the rear suspension, so we changed the springs and dampers and we put the rear wheel and tyre on, and we started prepping the front of the car, sort of taking the front bumper off, that sort of thing. Station two, we continue to do the prep on the front for the bull bar, but we also add the front suspension at that stage as well. Station three, we start to do wheel arch liners. Fundamentally, the principle behind the line as it's set up here is we do sub-assembly on this side and then feed it into the line. We've got wheel and tyre sub-assembly over here as well. The really great thing about this is it's got a real focus on OH&S, because that's a heavy assembly to be lifting every day. We've designed the line and all the equipment so the operator never has to lift a wheel or tyre assembly.
Right, okay, so you actually, all this equipment, you made it all?
Correct, yeah, it's bespoke for the line, yeah. And I mean, some of it's modified version of something that's more generic.
But I think it's just something that people probably don't think about.
No.
You still got to create how you create the product.
Absolutely, the manufacturing engineering is just as important as the product engineering.
Yep.
You know, and we have a really talented team on the manufacturing engineering side as well. And like I said, we have to meet international standards. We get audited. We've got an audit coming up with Lloyd's come out and audit our processes to make sure that we can maintain that ISO 9001 certification.
Did it take long to actually get that process? Obviously, you started the process with NTRAC.
Yep.
How long did it take to sort of get that process running smoothly?
It's a great question because it's an ongoing, like I say, we're still doing it, but we were able to carry all of those skills and competencies from the work we did with Ford Performance Vehicles, building, you know, 55,000 V8s over the years and 200,000 cars through those facilities. Most of those staff have come over here.
Okay.
So we've got all of that accreditation, that process, that intellectual property, that knowledge and experience has migrated into this facility.
Fantastic. So now we've got cars starting to look like Warriors. They're getting there.
Yeah. The bull bar at the front, the safari bar, you'll see we're doing the sub-assembly here, and then we feed them onto the cars there, or the pickups there. And you'll see here, this is our longest assembly process. So we've actually got two stations in one here. So when we reach our peak volume of 13 units per day, it really puts pressure on the system to be able to feed these in at a rate of 40-minute tack time. So that means every 40 minutes, line moves.
Right.
The bull bar was the longest process from a duration perspective, so we had to build actually two stations here so that we can feed them in one at a time, and they never hold up the line.
Putting together headlights here, so it all goes up in one
Exactly,
unit?
yep.
Right, so now we're getting towards the finishing touches. So what do we got here? We've got flares going on, I think?
Yeah, we've got some flares going on, and then the ute liner as well.
Right.
We have a speedo correction device that goes in around here as well.
Yeah, that's because of the bigger rolling stock?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so bigger diameter wheel and tyre package means that our speedo is reading over, sort of so to speak. So we have to then put a correction device that goes in behind the dashboard that brings it back to a true reading.
Okay, fantastic.
I mean, that's something, again, you know, a lot of people put bigger wheels and tyres on in the aftermarket. They never do that. You know, this is an OE product.
Yeah. Then what's this last, well not quite last station on the line.
Yep. So sports bar at this station and finishing off the ute liner.
Yep.
You'll see, again, unique equipment for lifting that sports bar in place. Make sure it's done safely.
Yeah, it's not just one bloke.
It's not. You know, we've got to have a real focus on OH&S. We've got an awesome team here, really good team. Very good mix of ages, different sexes, got people from all different backgrounds. It's awesome, great team. And we really haven't had any safety instances, so it's fantastic.
Very good. So let's just head now over to these, finishing bays. So what's happening here?
Finishing bays, decals. So it's the final appearance items and wheel alignment. Because, of course, we've lifted it. We have to redo the camera and the caster on the front of the vehicle. Yep. So re-wheel alignment, vehicle goes through its full checklist here. So check off all the quality. We've got in-line quality checks, but then the final sign-off at this station as well. And every car gets road tested. Okay. So 100% road test.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, hopefully that gives you a bit of a glimpse into what makes up a Pro-4X Warrior and how the thing's put together. So all that's left now is for us to drive it. So check out later this month, Matty Radonicus will be behind the wheel in Northern Territory. So we'll see how successful Bernie and his team's been.
Guaranteed 6 stars out of 5.
Okay, well there you go, you heard it here first.